Hey, it's Kimberlee and welcome back to my channel. I make videos on all things lifestyle on a budget, and oh my god, golly, this past month of spending for May was just so much. I just felt like it was draining out of me. I want to know in the comments down below, like, is there a time of the year that you just feel like you're spending so much money? I feel like most people feel kind of hectic around taxes, but like, I don't know, man. It feels like right now, like May, June, I'm not sure. It's just too much for me. Like, I'm like, I don't want to do another thing. So where we left off with my April spending was that I had to be really stern. I went over budget in almost every category, and I was like, me to me, let's get this together. Like, we gotta line it up. And I am happy to say that this month was much better, but it was because it all went to bills. Like, it was like, you can't do much because you have to pay these bills. And so I did a lot of shuffling around, a lot of cutting back on certain things or just not spending because I had to basically put it all to bills. Like you guys know, I use the Every Dollar app to keep track. I'm so happy for it, so grateful for my friends suggesting it because oh man, what I used to be scared of looking at, like now I'm just like, we gotta look at it, we gotta figure out what we're doing, where we're going. The game plan for this month is that I had to set aside a certain chunk of money for bills that aren't monthly, but they come around like twice a year or something like that. And then also some necessities like my contacts, like in my eyes, like I can't not get that. In calculating it now, I had to set aside around $952.77. That's actually what it ended up being. I had 2 sets of union dues, but then as I mentioned in my last video, I had to get a flight for a wedding that's coming up. So I consider that kind of important. Like, I'm going, so I do have to buy that. And then I also, like I mentioned before, my eye contacts. Had to get it. So with that in mind, it's basically about $1,000 that I had to allocate for these bills, for these necessities of things coming up that I needed to cut back somewhere. So as we go through this, I'll show you where I cut back. So the first chunk of money that I didn't use this month was to go towards my savings, my investments, and my emergency fund. Didn't do it. So that was about $600 that I was like, we're not gonna touch that. We'll pick up the pace hopefully later in the year or something like that. Rent, we know we have that. I set that off. My electricity, my internet, those are constant. Didn't change anything with that. Made sure I paid that as usual. Now the Metro card, remember in the last month I was like, I'm not really using my Metro card, so I'm gonna lower the rate. Well, I did go over a little bit. So last month ended up being a month that I did ride a little bit more. I went over $21. Like I said, I've been using the Omni, and once you hit over 33, you end up getting free rides. I think I got that twice this month, which was really nice. Now, other transportation, we had already talked about it. I was like, I'm going to Long Island a lot. So that one I did end up spending over the amount. I allocated only like $30 and I spent $95. In groceries, I went over $5. I don't really consider that intense of a situation. So I'm fine with still keeping it at the $150. I went to Trader Joe's, spent $100. And then the Bed Bath & Beyond, it was more like toiletries and such, but I did just put it in the grocery section because I don't know. For restaurants, I did better. I spent $276.35 out of $250, so I went over by $26. I can do even better, I know it. I would say 98% of the time, I don't spend any money Monday to Friday on like food and drink. It's kind of like a hard rule that I have for just trying not to spend money during the week. I love doing that. I feel like it does help immensely, even though I went over like $20-something here. But I think that's okay. Bringing it down to $250 I think was good. I'm definitely not putting it back up to $300. So the most exciting part, which I couldn't help but post on my little community feed, was that I did not spend much on clothing. I would argue to say that I didn't spend anything on clothing because the only thing I did buy, I spent $16.22 on an umbrella because it was torrential raining when I was out one morning going to a fitness class, and I just did not have an umbrella. I had a jacket with a hood, but I was literally drenched. So I had to go in, get a $15 umbrella. I know. But other than that, I didn't spend anything on clothing, and I was so proud of myself because, like I said, it felt like it was out of control the month before. It was just a couple of items of clothing, but I really wanted to hone in on that, and I feel like I did hit my goal. Extra $183.78 went off to towards the bills. But now I have 2 umbrellas, so I at least got one that was longer, so I didn't feel like I was buying the exact same thing that was sitting in my apartment. But it is what it is. Sometimes things just happen like that. Clothing, like I mentioned, the phone is the usual. Oh, I had to adjust the subscription. So I wasn't calculating that right. And my subscriptions altogether are actually $63.11. I think because Netflix went up and also Amazon Prime went up that I went back and checked and I was like, oh, okay. So those bills are a little bit higher now. Now actor stuff, this is something that I really actually have to adjust going forward because I am doing like a steady lessons thing going through. Awesome. I did have to rent a studio. I did have to buy some sheet music. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the month, I had a huge chunk of this go towards a website fee. So I already knew this was going to go well over. So I spent like over $500. I'm gonna have to raise this budget a lot because I am doing some consistent packages with my vocal lessons. But the other things were one-offs, like the renting of the studio. I just needed more space in my apartment for that combination, so I had to do it. And then getting into fun money, so this is where I had some fun. Just as I mentioned in my last video where I won that contest with Hopper on Instagram where they gave me, I think, a $250 credit. Oh man. Talk about like perfect timing because the flights were so crazy expensive. They're like over $500. So using that for the flight that I needed, I was able to get my flight for $223.20. I went and saw MJ the musical, so I had a ticket for that. I'm so excited. One of my friends made her Broadway debut. Another friend is already in it. They're just killing and slaying the game. Loved it so much, highly recommend it. MoMA, I went to, I think this was at the beginning of the month. And then I remember I had these gifts that I was purchasing for other people. So this same section is going to be a little bit much this month as well because I have the wedding like I mentioned. I have Father's Day gifts, etc. So I have to create a budget for that. I'm going to have to set that budget like a little bit higher, probably in the $400 range this month. And it just kind of is what it is. Hair and cosmetics, I spent $0 towards that. So that $50 went again towards those bills. Maybe I could have put my umbrella in there. I don't know. Maybe I just need to change the title. I don't know what it should be, but just like other stuff that's not clothing. And then this last section, I did have to add in the contacts, my eye contacts, and that cost me $116.98 from CVS. I highly recommend CVS for your contacts. I feel like that might be the lowest where I've seen the prices. Down in gym, what I ended up doing was making a sacrifice this month. So the $193.13 that I normally spend on like a 5-pack for these gym classes at the fitting room, I just didn't do it. I am now back to working out on there. YouTube is going to be my workouts for the foreseeable future. I am saving that money and using it towards my bills, towards my expenses going forward. I had to make the call on it. I can work out on YouTube, been doing it since the pandemic. I work out with MagFit or Phoenix Nation. Those are my two favorites, two go-tos. And I actually do work out more now because I do every other day versus when I was going to the studio, I was only doing 5 classes in a month. I have my weights here. I've got my jump rope. I got my yoga mat. So it can be done right here for free, and that's what I'm gonna do going forward. Insurance stuff, don't have anything there, which was great. And then down here in the debt, I paid more of my credit card. You guys know I always do that $1,000 every month. I did do that, so we're moving and shaking. My union dues right here, so that was about $612.59, and that's pretty much it. So tallying up the money that I did set aside based on what I chose not to spend money on, that ended up coming out to $976.91, which was great because the fees that I had for this month were $952.77. It's not a direct even Stevens because I had some other expenses, but the fact that I was able to find $1,000 that I could set aside for these bills is what I consider great. It just showed me where I can cut back and where I could continue cut back going forward because I am gonna have some more bills this month. Oh, it's just hitting me like a 1-2 punch, which is crazy, but that just is the time of the year. So going forward in June, my must spends right at the top are my health insurance and my supplemental for my dental. So that I pay quarterly, and this is the quarter. So $375 goes to my health insurance, $90 goes to the dental plan that I have as a supplement to kind of make it better, whatever. Then I mentioned Father's Day is coming up, gonna set some money aside for that. I think the wedding budget is gonna end up being like $400 or so. Let me just kind of add up and see. It's about to be like another $900. Basically, I'll stretch $1. That's what I'm doing. I'm thinking, I'm back and forth on if I'm gonna do an investment or not because I do want the money to continue to grow. Definitely gonna shoot for the same thing with the no shopping, definitely no workout money. YouTube is what we're going to be using, and I think I'll be okay. Like, this is it's just trudging through water right now, but still trying to have fun, but trudging through water as I go. So I just have to be very conscious of it. I feel like the baseline of what I have in my head, again, the Monday to Friday, like just spending on Metro cards and travel, I feel like that's a good place to set the bar. It's not so shocking or jarring to me to not spend money during the week. So my tip for anyone that might be in the same situation or something similar where you're trying to find where money is, it's so good to write everything out or to have this app to just kind of see what you're doing as a whole and where you can pull from. I say you can still have a little bit of fun as long as you are still paying your bills. So I showed up for myself. I had a good month. I did enjoy myself, but I also made sure the bills were paid, and that's the most important. How was your month? I'm curious. Do you have any big expenses? Because now it's summertime, it's vacation. Maybe you're going through the same thing as well. Let's have a discussion as always. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for keeping me accountable, and I will see you in the next one.